Bitcoin SV is a chain that we believe represents the original Bitcoin protocol and design. It needed to have a software implementation. Originally, Bitcoin SV started not as its own chain, but a competing software or technical roadmap for the Bitcoin Cash network. And we asked miners essentially to vote during the hash floor as to which technical roadmap to follow. Do you want to follow Bitcoin ABCs, which we think is totally changing what Bitcoin is and is no longer Bitcoin? Or do you want to follow Bitcoin SV, which is restoring the original Bitcoin? Had the hash floor ended up differently, the chain would have merged back into Bitcoin Cash, but they have split off.
Sort of negotiations broke down and it was all-out war.
Exactly, all-out war, and then as opposed to continue it on, our camp decided we're just going to go on our own way.
Right.
And so now Bitcoin SV is its own chain. There is what we call a Bitcoin SV node implementation, which is the reference implementation for Bitcoin SV. That means other people can create additional software that's compatible with ours and run nodes. And for example, in the Bitcoin Cash world, there's several compatible implementations: Bitcoin ABC, Bitcoin XT, Bitcoin Unlimited, that all operate intercompatibly on the Bitcoin Cash network.
And whatever happens on them goes onto the same chain.
Correct. Yeah. And so we don't want our Bitcoin SV node to ever be the only software implementation for Bitcoin SV. So it's the reference implementation now, meaning it's the thing you would refer to, right? If you could create your own software, you Charles could sit and or if you're a coder, could develop and release your own software. That if you were running a mining node, you could choose Charles's software as opposed to our node implementation. So that is maintained by a team of developers. They work for Nchain. So Nchain has a team that is the Bitcoin SV node team. They are supported financially by CoinGeek. And Calvinera, of course, is a huge supporter of Bitcoin SV. And the project is owned by the Bitcoin Association. So it's kind of an interrelated set of relationships. But I think it is fair to say Nchain is currently overseeing the Bitcoin SV, at least the software implementation. I know there are many people out in the cryptocurrency world who are skeptical and concerned about Nchain's IP program. And what I would say is, first of all, we are a private enterprise that invests a lot of money, time, and team members into R&D development to unlock some amazing inventions, particularly out of Craig Wright's head. And that has value to the world, but that costs money. And we will only invest in that if we can protect that, and that's why we have an IP program. I would also say that many companies are filing blockchain patent applications, not just us. IBM, Bank of America. It's a bit of a race to the patent office. If we don't file applications for some inventions, some other company is going to come along and file something that bleeds over and would block or claim a territory. And I think it's better for a company like Nchain, which is so dedicated to the mission of Bitcoin, to be the patent holders as opposed to, they're not necessarily nefarious. I have nothing bad to say about other big companies getting blockchain patent applications, but they're doing it for a very commercial purposes that is just about their business. We are doing work to try and grow an entire Bitcoin ecosystem. And so there's a couple of ways we can use our patent program to help that. One is we have said publicly that we will make available a number of Nchain IP assets for free usage on our preferred blockchain, which is Bitcoin SV now, the original Bitcoin. And so that is a way for us to use our resources and effort to entice companies to build on the Bitcoin SV blockchain, because then you can use some of our great IP assets and tools and inventions for free.
So if I'm a developer and I've got a great idea,
yes,
and I start putting it together and I think, oh my God, there are half a dozen patents here that Nchain has.
Yes, and if you do it on Bitcoin SV, you won't have to pay us IP royalty.
So that's a way of sort of herding everybody towards SV.
It's a way of wielding IP power. I say, for good, right? Which is, and any IP holder has the right to decide how the IP can be used, because we could just deny a license to other people. And we wouldn't necessarily tell people they couldn't use our IP assets on, let's say, Ethereum, for example, or another blockchain, but then they might have to pay us a fee.
time to get serious. Time to talk about some of this stuff. Now, I just want to state this. Some of you guys in the community, I'm not going to mention any particular names, have stated that I need to address BSV for I could still have credibility. Now, I want to state this politely, no disrespect. Give me a break. Okay. So, for one, if I haven't established any credibility with all these other things I covered, then by all means, I don't care who it pisses off. You are more than welcome to absolutely unsubscribe and do your own thing. But if you're still here to weather the storm with this crypto journey that we talk about by providing you actual research instead of fluff, then by all means, please stick around. And if that ticked anybody off, guess what? I don't really care, because want to know something? I'm going to continue to be me. I'm going to continue to cover what I want to cover, whether people feel as though I have any credibility or not, because the research does trump FUD 110%. And here's why. So one of the main things I want to mention is this: narratives, mainstream narrative, right? Retail narratives. And of course, how about this? Institutional narratives. So my thing is this, okay? Recognizing all of it, putting emotions aside, even though it sounds like I'm a little emotional, I'm not really. Putting all this stuff aside and literally analyzing what is really going on behind the scenes that doesn't get a lot of coverage, okay? So first thing we're going to start off with is this, and a shout out to the one and only Satoshi. People have pointed out, it's like, yeah, BSV, what do we do with this stuff? Michael Middleton pointed out, like, for instance, going to the blockchain conference, San Francisco, kind of seems like a split. Who's researching what? Are they really researching the nitty gritty? Now, some people say, well, not everybody does that type of research. Now, I get that. What I want to address is this specifically to start off first. Like I said, shout out to Satoshi. Before we get into this, he deserves a plug. If you're really into BSV, Bitcoin, in my opinion, genuine Bitcoin, you should give him a follow. A lot of you already are doing that. He could be followed over at BSV Bitcoin. Actually, it's just, if you type in Satoshi, his channel is going to come up immediately. But if you want to do it from the technicality point of view, you could type in BSV space Bitcoin, or just type in Satoshi. It will come right up. This is 5 days ago. He says, news, is the Copa judgment in? Well, you guys already have the answer to that. But I will agree with the statements that he has outlined here. I fast forwarded to you. I've already shared this with Corey Bibe. I don't even know if he's here tonight. Maybe he's going to watch the replay later, so he's already caught up as far as that goes. But you have to listen to this. I do agree 100%. I wish this was mentioned in the trial, but for whatever reason, it wasn't. And there's nothing we could do about that. But we could point it out to everyone here. I'm telling you flat out, this is going to be a solid outline for you guys. Your key takeaway should be betting on innovation instead of a mainstream narrative. Why? Because when we get more into this, you're going to find out that even with the mainstream narrative of this guy is fake Toshi, don't get into BSV, guess what? There's things into place that BSV can still be selected as Bitcoin, right? And what happens when, when that goes into place? Are you prepared for some of these things? Let's go ahead and play this. Thank you again to the one and only Satoshi. Listen to this.
Bitcoin is an economic model. The court case is purely for CSW's own safety, because if when the market flips due to Terranode or CSW moving a coin, the flipping is justified because CSW is Satoshi, and the fraudsters are those that are calling him a fraud. And eventually the market will flip. It has to, because there is no other way for it to scale. Again, because we know that Adam Back has created the Lightning Network that starves the miners of their block fee. Yeah, so the block reward just goes down and down and down. It's just those criminals that have got billions of dollars in BTC that might lose it all will look for someone to blame, and now the fingers will point directly at CSW for doing it, since he, in quotes it, is not Satoshi. So that's the crux of the matter here, really. So I mean, yes, talk about that a little bit more. So again, what kind of like pissed me off really was, again, I've been trying to get this education out. So Copa, in their closing arguments, tried to justify the existence for BTC due to its market price. I mean, the market price is completely misguided. One of the questions they should have put to Adam Back is, because he's responsible, because he's the CEO of Blockstream that have supposedly scaled Bitcoin, but they haven't scaled Bitcoin. They've created a second layer that is nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's a security offering because there are tokens on it that are meant to represent BTC. So therefore, they're tokens that actually represent nothing because they don't do anything. They are unregistered illegal security offerings, is what they've created. But the main thing what they've done is to justify this second layer is implemented Segwit and kept the block size to 1 megabyte. And so by literally segregating the digital signatures from the transaction data, you are tampering with digital signatures. That is fraud, straight up fraud. So one of the questions they should have said to Adam Back, oh yeah, you've scaled Bitcoin, have you? You've created the Lightning Network. Can you explain Segwit? Oh, so Segwit segregates the digital signatures from the transaction data. So you're tampering with signatures. You're doing something to them, without the permission of those who have made the transactions, who the transactions belong to, because their signature is on it. You are removing the transactions. So you're saying that the only way you could scale Bitcoin is by committing fraud. That is the entire point. Craig is scaling Bitcoin in the way that Satoshi Nakamoto described in the white paper, and it remains a digital commodity because accountability remains with the users because the signatures are on the transactions. And I mean, this is absolutely key to Craig's identity as Satoshi Nakamoto. But I'm suggesting the lawyers didn't understand this, which is why they weren't able to question him about it. But that is the crux of the matter. Every single other implementation, of a shitcoin, an alternative protocol, is fraud. It is securities fraud because data can only be commoditized one way, with accountability moving from those who economically sustain the network onto the users through the chain of digital signatures. Once the chain of digital signatures is broken, accountability is lost forever. That is it. There is no going back once that chain of signatures is broken because accountability is lost. You cannot go right back to the start of the network because the chain of signatures has been broken. Like, I literally cannot stress this enough. So they should have said that. Put that to Adam Back. All right, so the only way it can scale is by committing fraud. Oh, right. So the only way you can actually scale Bitcoin and not committing fraud is the way that Craig has done, and Craig is claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto, and no one else can scale it in the way that he has scaled it. That's it, because he created it. It's a fundamental argument that was missed out of this court case, which really pisses me off. But yeah, the court case is superfluous to Bitcoin's economic model. All it is just literally there for Craig's own safety and security, because Bitcoin had to go through a period of neutral organic growth where his identity had to remain a mystery and hidden for long enough for the network to grow neutral and organically. And people keep saying, Craig has claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto since 2016. What they conveniently leave out is that he was had the finger pointed to him by Gizmodo and Wired Magazine, who created articles saying, here is all the evidence that you need that Craig is Satoshi Nakamoto in 2015. They always conveniently leave that out, which is pretty ridiculous. So let's go back to the law here. So again, we saw the court and all.
Okay. All right. Obviously, you guys can watch the rest of it. I just want to get to that little core tidbit. Now, the next part we're going to get into is a little bit more about this court thing, and the whole, thing tonight is not going to be just strictly, covering the outcome of the court and talking about if Craig Wright, Satoshi Nakamoto, obviously, we're not going to get just all into those specific things. So the second part will be a little bit more about this whole thing in regards to the trial and so on. There's a third and fourth part that's going to get into the dynamics, the specifics in regards to innovation, patents. I'm telling you flat out, don't miss that part. Even if you be like a naysayer or you're not invested in any of this stuff, hear a different perspective, not just because it's an opinion, because literally there's patents and why those patents matter. All right. Stick around for that segment, smash the like. Let's get this program out to a broader base, whether it's a popular thing to do or not. Because want to know something? I'm not going to talk about, or I'm not going to, I should say, stop talking about BSV because there is, again, this narrative saying, yep, that's right. Told you, Max, fake Toshi. So you need to stop talking about that. Hey, guess what? I'll talk about where the heck I want to talk about. This whole thing, this attack on content creators that we're not allowed to have freedom of thought is absolute malarkey. And anybody who does that, you are part of the problem with cancel culture. And I will say that unapologetically, absolutely. Fast forward to this key spot. So Satoshi came out with this yesterday, and the reason why I want to mention it to you guys is, think about this narratives. So it says Dr. Wright expended substantial skill and judgment in creating the Bitcoin file format. Now, before we get into the whole part with Reggie Middleton's segment, you got to listen to this. It's going to be a great outline to get you to that next particular part of why this is all important. So let's go ahead and full screen this, and we'll go ahead and play this shortly. Here we go. All right, here we go.
So we've just heard, again, James Mellor saying that he did not think that Craig Wright was Satoshi Nakamoto, that Craig Wright did not write the white paper, that Craig Wright did not start the network. And yet in a previous ruling, he said that Dr. Wright expended substantial skill and judgment in creating the Bitcoin file format. Care to explain yourself? Like, this is just absolutely crazy. Such that the originality / intellectual creativity requirement was met. Further, the justice agreed that Dr. Wright devised and created the Bitcoin file format in the course of writing the code for the Bitcoin system. Last, Justice Mellor agreed that two works could be created at the same time. However, Justice Mellor disagreed with Dr. Wright on the key issue of fixation. The court held that Dr. Wright erred in his assumption that the fixation requirement was automatically met when the Bitcoin program ran, since the Bitcoin file format was not recorded in writing or otherwise, which is a key component of establishing fixation. The Bitcoin file format was not fixed. Well, it is actually. Therefore, Dr. Wright had no real prospect of establishing copyright in the file format. The justice then listed further related reasons for the denial. Yeah, and it just goes on. The UK Court of Appeal overturned Justice Mellor's decision. The three-judge panel unanimously held that Justice Mellor was wrong to hold that Dr. Wright had no real prospect of successfully establishing the Bitcoin file format, which is fixation. Writing to the court, Lord Justice Arnold noted that 1. Justice Mellor confused work and fixation when discussing the Bitcoin file format. Dr. Wright identified the work as the file format. However, the question of whether the file format was fixed merits a trial. 2. The content does not need to indicate the structure of the Bitcoin file format for clarity. All that is required is that the structure be completely and unambiguously recorded. 3. Justice Mellor applied the wrong test for fixation. Had the correct test been used, Justice Mellor would have asked whether Dr. Wright's claimed fixation made the Bitcoin file format identifiable with sufficient precision and objectivity. 4. The rationale for the fixation requirement to serve as evidence of the existence of the work and to delimit the scope of protection when unconsidered. Blah, blah, blah. Potential input. I mean, can you believe it? Can you honestly believe what I've just read there? So you're not Satoshi Nakamoto, but you created the software and the code. Honestly, you couldn't make this space up. Oh my goodness me. So anyway, yeah, a little bit of fun there. Let's have a look at today's figures. So
Okay. So my key thing here is, before we get more into this outline, is recognizing, I don't know if I had it on the exact part, because you got to keep in mind, the other day I was driving home early in the morning from across town, downtown Phoenix, to, back here at home. And when I was listening to Satoshi, one of the things that was also brought up, and some of you guys are aware of this, is that the same judge also was a judge previously, right, with some other specific cases, trials, and so on. So it's like a little bit of conflict of interest. And one of the things let's point out, for crying out loud, was recognizing this, amazing job that Craig Wright did in regards to the actual like writing of the Bitcoin protocol. So you're going to all of a sudden just dismiss that in the past. It's okay to give kudos then, but it's not okay to give kudos now. It's beyond absurd. Okay, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted to bring this to you guys tonight. This next part that we're going to get into, I know that segment was kind of short. This is not from Satoshi. This is now the part that we're going to get into in regards to Michael Middleton. We did share this last Thursday with Rue Black, but I decided to pound it home just a little bit more in regards to this specific part. Reggie talks about this in regards to patents and which ones are going to be selected and so on, and then he's going to elaborate a little bit more on another particular video. Let's go ahead and share this just in case you didn't see it from last time. I'm not going to play like the whole half-hour thing, but this little clip. Listen to what he mentions here, right? And again, this is actually shared from a video that was chopped up and given to you guys today. You could, by all means, catch up on that video. It's in the recorded video section. Just again, videos catalog. It says BSV should treat BSV as an insurance policy. Right. I feel as though you should, even if you're like a BTC Maxi. I mean, why would you want, if we have insurance, is to get, or basically to not get wrecked. So let's go ahead and play this. Excuse me, I was trying not to sneeze. And yeah, let's go ahead and full screen this as well. Here we go.
Okay, in the video I put up, I should have went a little deeper. If you look at the risk disclaimers in the issuance papers for BlackRock's ETF, they go through what happens if the market believes that another flavor of Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin versus BTC, okay? Or if IP pressures, and they don't go into this, but I will. I didn't do it deep in the video, but I will. Suppose that Nchain, and Nchain has said, or representatives of Nchain has said that they will favor users of BSV, which is their version of Bitcoin, which is a fork from BCH, Bitcoin Cash, which itself was a hard fork from BTC, the original one. And BTC itself did a hard fork when it did Segwit, segregated witness, which is a technological change. Just to go into the history for nerds.
And that also makes me think of something. Nobody exactly knows kind of how things went down with Terra Luna, but what if there was some type of like big Terra Luna like short of Bitcoin, right? Because there's speculation that before the whole Terra Luna thing happened, there were shorts put in. So somebody made tons and tons of money from shorting Terra Luna, right?
I'm glad you brought that up because that actually was mentioned when that whole thing went down.
Yeah. So what if this is like what happens with Bitcoin and BSV ends up being the real Bitcoin?
Oh my God.
I'm not trying to say, guys, go sell your Bitcoin. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the possibility exists. So why wouldn't you own any BSV? That's my thing. It's like, okay, if this possibility is out there and we know how important patents are, why wouldn't you own some BSV?
Can we, I'm gonna use this analogy. I always try to put things in layman's terms. You could be a person that's totally against BSV because you're still one of those guys that's like, Craig Wright's a charlatan. I'm never getting involved with that. If you think about it, that's being emotional to a sense. Hear us out, right? We're not, at the end of the day, trying to convince you anything. We're just trying to share a point of view. But I look at what Rue just mentioned. If we have insurance policies on our home, insurance policies on our car, our assets, right? Our top priority assets, insurance. You should look at this as like kind of like an insurance policy. Do you want to take that chance on like what Rue just mentioned? Like it could be the next big black swan event. Now, we're not trying to create fear for you guys. Please don't interpret it that way. Just providing you guys information. Do with it what you will. But for me, I don't want to take that chance. And if I was a guy who was a BTC Maxi, and maybe I'm like all my eggs are in one basket, if you will, that would bother the living hell out of me. I'd be like, you know what? This is my insurance policy. I need to take a step back and analyze the situation and say to myself, if I believe in insurance, and most of us do, that's why we're insured. We hope to God that we never have to, file a claim, right? But that's the whole point of insurance. Insurance is designed for you're just that. You're insured, right? In worst case scenario. Well, is this a potential worst case scenario? And I think Reggie Militant and his crew did an excellent job of explaining it. And thank you, of course, to our brother Rue here for getting into the deep dive content and bring it to us. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Yeah, go ahead.
I think we only have about I don't know how you are with time, Max, but I think we only have about 7 minutes of this video left, which I only think I'll comment in between a little bit. So we've got about 15 minutes left.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead.
Okay.
Chain enforces its patents. Okay, it would be more expensive to do business if they favor BSV, which I believe they will. Okay, they say if you use our chain, a lot of licensure would be embedded in the chain. Okay, but let's suppose they do that or they don't. If they enforce their patents, just transferring Bitcoin would be more expensive. Okay, if you use BTC versus transferring BSV. Okay, they can use their patents to put a lot of pressure and having BSV adopted. If that's the case, then the Bitcoin ETF that BlackRock has launched, what does it hold? What did it buy? BSV or BTC?
BTC. Oh, you're saying which one they're going to hold as a real one? They're going. Oh, I get what you're saying.
Well, what have they purchased? They purchased what, $10 billion or what?
I haven't looked, so I can't confirm because I haven't looked back. But what
they
the word
BTC.
is, yeah, what the word is Bitcoin though.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, everybody. Now, Bitcoin is like an overarching, technology. Because remember, don't believe Gary Gensler and SEC, right? These are not securities. This is technology. This is software. That's what it is. Okay, so Bitcoin is the software, and you have different flavor, different forks. BTC, BCH, BSV, BS. You understand what I'm saying? So, that was a joke, but you're not laughing. BS. You're gonna have to laugh. There we go.
I'm over here doing research in the background, Reggie. I'm sure another Trump joke. Stupid
Okay.
Trump is out there for the DJs out there. That's Trump.
Okay, so if these patents or they win the copyright suit, which I'm not taking that seriously because copyrights mean nothing relative to the patents. Okay, if they have enough force to give BSV the nod, then these $10 billion of tokens that BlackRock, et cetera, purchased are worth a lot less than anticipated. So what Bitcoin is or adopted, the flag position, the pole position of Bitcoin can change depending on market sentiment, depending on legal pressure, et cetera. And the reason why there's a lot of risk there is because you've been convinced by people from New York that this technology is an investment in securities. It's technology, period. Go back to the internet days, back in 1993, right? Would you have made more money purchasing IP packets, internet protocol packets, which is a little bits of information that allow this conversation to happen through the internet or sending emails? Or would you make more money owning the actual technology itself, the internet? If you own the internet, everybody using the internet owes you money. Facebook, Amazon, Google, the whole nine.
And that point that he made there about owning the IP or the patent for IP, again, should make you hugely bullish about Swift because they own the cross-chain patent via machine learning. That's like everything, right? Cross-chain patent via machine learning or AI.
And guys, if you're just tuning in, he's not talking about Swift as in he's talking about the Swift coin with Swift blockchain. I just want to, for all those just tuning in. All right, so I don't want to play the whole thing in regards to, that because you can watch it on the recorded. The next part we're going to get into here shortly is to elaborate a little bit more on what Reggie Militant was sharing, with his particular research panel that you saw there, those 3 guys. So he did state on his channel that he was going to do that. Please give Reggie Militant a follow, right? He obviously, has content on YouTube as well. We're going to jump over to that right now. So here is what we were talking about. Some of you guys have said, was there any particular update? Yeah, there's a particular update. What exactly is it? Well, let's go ahead and pull that up for you. So here it is. And what it says here is ETFs, patents, Coinbase, and why the folly of ignoring ownership will turn crypto upside down. I fast forward just a tad bit. We are going to play most of this. Notice what's referenced here, right? The DNA of blockchain, Nchain, transforming the world from Web 2 to Web 3. I'm telling you flat out, listen to Perspective. Like he says, educational video that goes over critical patent. Coinbase's method of cold storage, BlackRock's record ETF capital intake, controversial Craig Wright, and the blockchain IP behemoth that no one seems to be paying attention to, which is obviously Nchain. I'm telling you flat out, this whole thing of just paying attention to one narrative of, what you heard, hearsay from the average person. Again, realize that technology wins no matter if even 90% of people were against this. I understand the whole concept of the internet of trust, maybe eat my own words here, but it's innovation that will end up winning in the end. I mean, come on, Visa, MasterCard, and so on. Do you ever wonder why they reach out, for example, to the Bitcoin Association for BSV? Is it because they could give two about if Craig Wright's a charlatan or not? No, it's them betting on innovation. Look where we've gone from Web 1 to Web 2 even, right? The days of AOL, 56K and all that nonsense. People even say Blockbuster, Netflix. I mean, the examples are endless in regards to betting on innovation. If I know my history, which I do, same with most of you guys as well, innovation wins. Not 9 times out of 10, literally 10 times out of 10, especially if it's connected to something that is already has been adopted, and you're taking that technology to the next level. We are going from Web 2 to Web 3. So yeah, I am going to bet on innovation. Listen to what Reggie Milton has to say here. I mean, yeah, technically it was 12 days ago, but the other report was even further back from there. But still, it really doesn't matter the timestamps of all this or the dates. It's understanding where the technology is. Let's go ahead and play this. This will be the last segment, and then we'll kick it back into the comments. It's not going to be the longest show tonight, but nonetheless, it does take the cake. Listen to this. Here we go.
Craig Wright used to be, if I'm not mistaken, this is, to be fact checked, the chief science officer of Nchain. If I'm not mistaken, Nchain was a firm that he either founded or was an owner of that did intellectual property, basically held IP of patent applications and patents that were filed. He received a significant investment from presumably Craig Heyer, but I'm not sure. But they seem to have gotten a decent amount of money. And again, the names of these actors are not as relevant as the actual actions themselves. So you can take those with a grain of salt. They have capital. They purport to have engineers, 100 engineers, and they're prolific. If you do a search on Google patents for Nchain as an assignee, you get well over 4,000 results. Nchain says they have 1,090 issued patents and 3,900 patent applications. That's a lot, all focused on the blockchain DLT space. That's a lot. As a matter of fact, I believe that is the largest concentration in America and potentially worldwide. Potentially. I haven't checked. That's also less relevant. But you know what is relevant? The fact that Nchain is purportedly allowing free access to their entire portfolio of patents to users of BSV. BSV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, is offshoot. It was the offshoot of Bitcoin Cash, a hard fork of Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash itself was a hard fork of BTC or Bitcoin. Not getting into the Bitcoin wars, I really don't care. I know a lot of other people do. I think your energies are misguided, but I can't speak for you. But what I can speak on is if it is true that they will allow BSV users to access a patent portfolio, that is of significant value. Much more value than any other chain that I know of. Think of a chain that has 1,090 issued patents spread geographically worldwide with concentrations in Europe and in the US. Think about it. Bitcoin itself does not have any patents, okay? Ethereum itself doesn't have any patents. I think Consensus might have had 2, and I think those might have been sold off to JP Morgan. I'm not sure. So again, these are not things to be taken as fact, okay? But in comparison to Nchain and their massive patent portfolio, which is prolific, the patents that I will be discussing today are not my own, so you don't have to worry about me talking my book, but I will mention that 75% of the citations of the sites of our patents come from Nchain. Okay, that goes to show how prolific Nchain's IP program is in portfolio, because we believe that our patents are significant. So moving forward now, that means that Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, BSV, is probably significantly undervalued if you consider their IP behind it. And if they truly have 100 engineers and they're coming up with inventions after invention after invention, there's a strong chance that the BSV may be technologically potent. Again, I haven't checked it. I'm not a developer. I'm simply a student of fact. And I think everybody should be a student of fact. Okay, listen, look, and learn. Don't speak. Don't consume, public media as if it's doctrine, dogma, or fact. Go for primary sources. So I say this because I'm going to show how powerful the concept of having this IP is. If you remember, BSV was stricken off of the major exchanges, Binance, Kraken, Coinbase, etc., because they wanted Craig Wright to stop saying that he wrote the Bitcoin white paper. Okay, he may have shown aggressive action, etc. Again, this is not about Craig Wright, and if I'm not mistaken, Craig Wright is not even majority owner of Nchain anymore. Okay, so again, stop going after these memes of personalities and start going after facts and technology. Nchain has a patent that covers issued patent in more than one major jurisdiction that covers multi-part computing. Okay, multi-part computing is essentially, to oversimplify it, taking a private key, splitting it up, and using a secret to pass that key around and reunite it without physically moving the initial physical key. Initial private key. This is an oversimplification. Okay, I'm not going to bother to give the patent number, or I may, but I'm going to go through the patent. Okay, and we're going to see if it's a good idea to take Nchain and BSV seriously. So the issue with multi-part computing, or the important part about it, is that Coinbase uses that to secure its private storage, just cold storage facilities. That's how they store presumably Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. They just got a significant amount of business inflows once the SEC authorized and approved and allowed Bitcoin ETFs. There were 12 applications. I believe 11 started trading. Out of the 11 that were trading or launched, Coinbase got 8 of them. Okay, Coinbase uses multi-part computing for cold storage, and let's see what the patent goes over. I'm just going to glance over it, and I think just for giggles, maybe I will put the patent number up. The patent specifications, okay, outlines a method for splitting a verification element into shares. Let's assume that verification element is a private key. Determining a common secret at nodes at a network, okay, such as other wallets and clients. Transmitting shares using the common secret determined by asymmetric cryptographic pairs, public-private keys, okay? Coinbase uses MPC and TSS, threshold signature scheme, for cold storage. How do they use it? Well, they split private keys into shares, stored separately for security. They utilize common secret for operations without transferring the actual key secret over a network, and generating and using asymmetric key pairs and securing Bitcoin transactions. If you take what Coinbase does and you superimpose it over the claims of the patent, you should be concerned that this patent very well may cover Coinbase's actions. Let's make the assumption that it does, and I'm going to put some information in the video. I'll overlay it as I produce a video so you can get little bits and pieces and glimpses, okay? Let's assume that it does. And again, I'm not a patent lawyer. I'm not a developer engineer. I'm just a dad, okay? So this is not legal advice. It's not financial advice. It's not even technical advice. It's just a dad spouting his opinions, okay? Coinbase's shares have run up, if I'm not mistaken, 400-something%, okay? And the Bitcoin ETFs, led by BlackRock, right, have broken the record for ETF funding in the time since their launch. It's a lot of money, billions of dollars we're talking, okay, in a very, very short period of time. Has anybody done the due diligence to see if Coinbase actually owned the technology that they're using to run these, to custody the assets for these ETFs? And what's interesting about Coinbase is they have a pretty significant operation, and it is my belief that large swaths of their operation are patented in terms of technology, methods, devices, and systems that they use. If that is true, then Coinbase is assuredly overvalued, or at least misunderstood in terms of risk versus reward. Think about that. And if Nchain's written proclamations and assertions are accurate, as I understood them, Nchain will allow everybody on the BSV network to have full access to the portfolio royalty-free. Okay? If you're not using BSV, such as BTC, well, then you have to pay a license fee. Who knows what that license fee would be? I doubt if it would be free, though. It seems as if the modus operandi or the perceived business model is to persuade as many operators as possible to use their technology. And whoever doesn't use their technology has to pay for their technology. Okay? Use their technologies in BSV. pay for the technology as in the IP that was patented. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But again, you know, there are a lot of people who aren't paying attention. Now, throughout this video, I'll put bits and pieces to show that this is not just whistling in the wind. I have not done a patent analysis since I have no interest in doing it. Okay, I don't know if actual infringement occurs. Okay, but it looks like it's worth looking into. And I know after $10 billion or so of Bitcoin has flowed into ETFs, it looks like, you know, these players, whether they're on Wall Street or Silicon Valley or anywhere else, should have done what I'm putting in this video. They should have done it before they transferred all that money. Okay, there are many aspects of Coinbase, and not just Coinbase, but all the major exchanges that I believe are covered by someone else's technology that they're not licensing. I may be wrong. Like I said, I'm just a dad, so I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a technologist, developer, etc. Okay, and on that note, and in closing, if you look at BlackRock's, which is the largest ETF with the most growth, with the fastest inflow of capital, if you look at their risk section of their prospectus, you will see that they discuss the risk of the market choosing a different flavor of Bitcoin, et cetera, and it would not be unheard of to come to the conclusion that with enough intellectual property rights under their belt, BSV can easily be considered the de facto flavor of Bitcoin. And even if not using BSV will be materially more expensive. Give that some thought, some consideration.
Wow. Reggie Middleton is absolutely awesome. I don't consider it boring at all. You know, paying attention to what really matters is not boring at all.